This episode of the Game Over Greggy Show is brought to you by Movement Watches. Movement Watches was founded on the belief that style shouldn't break the bank. The watchmaker's goal is to change the way consumers think about fashion by offering high-quality, minimalist products at revolutionary prices. With over 500,000 watches sold to customers in more than 160 countries around the world, Movement Watches has solidified itself as the world's fastest-growing watch company. Movement Watches start at just $95. Now, at a department store, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at $400 to $500. Movement figured out that by selling online, they were able to cut out the middleman and the retail markup, providing the best possible price. Classic design, quality construction, and stylized minimalism. Over 500,000 watches sold in more than 160 countries. Did I say that? I did. Right now, you can get 15% off with free shipping and free returns by going to movementwatches.com/Greggy. That's MVMTwatches.com/Greggy. This watch is cool. You've seen me talk about it before. Black face, red hands, black band. I look awesome. So it's time to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Step up your watch game. Go to movementwatches.com/Greggy. MVMT. Join the movement. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Game Over Greggy Show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hi.
Hey. Now, what's this going on over here? You got some smuts.
I don't know. God knows.
Is this one of the Kevin cum shirts?
No, I don't know. This might be. You never know when you get that stuff from
No.
you pick it up. I rub up against a lot of things.
You do. You're like a cat.
I do.
You just put your scent
Sometimes,
all over.
my old man spatial awareness just kind of falters on me, and I just slam into things.
Like
and then I keep
that.
going.
Oh,
This
just-
might be wall. Could be cobweb.
Sure.
Who the hell knows what it is?
Well, you came in looking like a drowned cat today.
Dude, I got dumped on, man.
Yeah.
It is like storming outside.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I think we might talk about that later. Over here, the couscous magnet, Colin Moriarty.
What does that mean? I don't like this whole new thing that you're doing.
Ah, 2017!
Couscous
New names!
magnet.
You ever heard of couscous? It's
I've
a
heard
side
of
dish.
couscous. I've heard of couscous. I've had couscous many times, but I don't understand this new naming.
So you've had it
convention.
many times?
Yeah.
So you'd say it's drawn to you. Over there, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
Couscous is an inanimate food.
Keeps coming to you, though. Apparently, lots of times you've been
not
eating
magnetized.
it. Couscous magnet.
It's not magnetized. I need this weekend to come really bad because of football.
Is that going to help you think?
I don't need help. I'm fine. I just last week's football games was terrible, so I need
Do you think these will be better?
I hope so.
But you don't know.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Me, couch, underwear.
Tim, what do you
Gym
got?
Nance.
You're going to say something.
Couscous magnet.
Yeah.
Where'd it come from? Because yesterday
Yeah.
you guys recorded "P.S. I Love You." I was in
XOXO.
the other room. I heard this.
Yeah.
You gave him some other weird ass name. What
I'm
was
giving
it?
2017.
The
we're
Converse champion or some shit. No, Tight Socks. Tight Socks McGee
something
or
like
whatever
that. Yeah,
it
yeah.
was,
So
right?
that's about it. Yeah.
But I understand that. You look down. He has tight socks.
Yeah.
You give him that couscous magnet.
Yeah. His
What-
hair kind of reminds me of couscous.
I could see that. Short grain. You know.
I can't see it. I looked up to look at my hair, but the hair moved back because it's on my
Your
head.
hair looks
Yeah.
good. Your hair looks good. Your hair looks good. My hair looks great today. We're
Oh,
having
okay.
quite a good
We're
fucking
having a
hair
good day.
show
Hair
right
looks
now.
like terrible.
My hair
My hair
got
looks terrible.
No, I
got
like it.
fucked.
I like it when it's like this.
I don't know. I gotta get a cut.
How short are you gonna go this time? The regular amount of shortness you've been going? You gonna get the beard trimmed up too?
Yeah, I just feel
Get
like
a
I'm
tight
getting lazy.
fade
again
Can we
with
go
it.
together this time? I want to go to this haircut place.
No,
I
I'm
want
gonna
to
go.
go to this
I'm
nice
probably gonna go
barber
tomorrow
shop.
before I come here for the games cast.
It's full. A bunch of men there. I hear.
There are a lot of men.
Yeah, just
A lot of men in the
it up in
barbershop.
there.
My dude left though.
Oh no.
Jesus, he's no longer there. So I had to
No.
go. I had another guy named Luis.
Now, have you
Look up
asked
my hair.
them to do like a traditional barber cut on you? So instead
It's
of
not
just
possible.
instead of just cutting it down short, have them do like a little bit of fade on the sides. Just
It's not
give it a little
possible.
more
That
dimension.
requires maintenance, but you have to understand that I don't.
It doesn't.
I don't have that. I don't. People ask that question sometimes. I'm like, do you not understand what's going on here? It doesn't fall or fold or sit on. It's just there.
It's like sheep's wool.
It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous
so
head of hair.
thick. It's so thick.
But I like it when you do what you just did to, where you ding a little bit and it's just got all these different edges now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like an
I
anime,
think you
like a
could really
broke down
style
anime
that.
character.
I really think you could style that. I think you just got to go to the right guy, and he has to help you.
Just gotta believe.
They have to help you like get it to a specific look.
Well, I think it's more what Tim's saying is that the belief factor.
Yeah,
it's
you
also
live
the
in-
interest factor and the caring factor.
Yeah, I understand
Both
that.
precipitously low on this.
You don't need to care much though. You let the
All
barber
you need
care.
is the side. Yeah, the barber.
and the
you
barber
go in
doesn't
there-
even need to care much. Trust me, I know.
You got such a good
My
hairline.
barbers couldn't
Look
give
at
his
his
fuck
fucking
less.
hairline. Greg.
What I like about it is it's just got all these dips and curves to it like a planet. It's just this fucking jagged,
BI.
I'm like a
jagged
beat up-
surface.
Like a beat up captured asteroid roaming around Saturn right now.
On Miller's planet. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show each and every week. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can get every show early along with a bunch of exclusive perks, goodies, and right now, if you're giving us $1 or more, exclusive access to Kinda Funny Live 2. If you have no bucks to toss our way, no big deal. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we put the entire show up topic by topic, day by day, until it goes up as one big video and MP3 the following Friday. Nick,
Yes.
what's your topic?
My topic comes from Star Wars this time. It's unfortunately,
Midichlorians, Watto.
no sand. Unfortunately, Carrie Fisher passed, so it begs the question: what do they do with Star Wars Episode 8 and 9? Well, 8's done, 9, and should they be considering doing something with her CG?
Like Tarkin. And
Like Tarkin.
And like
And
young
like her.
Princess Leia.
Yeah, exactly.
In Rogue Legacy.
Yes, Rogue Legacy, definitely. In Rogue One, I mean, it's spoilers.
You had your shot. It's
Yeah.
like what? I mean,
People have seen it. Anyone who's watching this show has already
It's
seen
been
it
in
by now.
other people's thumbnails by now.
Yeah, it's fine.
You've seen it somewhere.
So everyone thought it was cool. I thought it was a little alarming. I don't necessarily like when they did this. I didn't care for it in Tron. I didn't think it. Well, obviously, the effect didn't work that well in Tron.
I didn't see it in Tron. I didn't see Tron. So who was
In
CGI
Tron
in
Legacy, they made Jeff Bridges younger. So the villain was the younger version of him.
Okay.
It was a program, but it looked like him. And so when Jeff Bridges came in, he had to fight himself, which I was like, that's cool, but it didn't really work. They couldn't. I guess they didn't get the right team on it.
Gotcha.
Or there was a lot of
It's a different
criticism
time.
about
It
it.
was 2008.
Well, it was, but I guess they wanted the people that the way I heard the story, and I could be completely wrong, was that the Benjamin Button team that did Benjamin Button, which was amazing, was supposed to come on here, but by that point there had been so many production delays that they'd lost the majority of the good guys, so they had to kind of, I guess they got the B team on it.
Ouch.
Anyway, it didn't work, and it didn't. Unfortunately, it didn't even need to be that. They could have just had someone that looked like Jeff Bridges be that character, or a completely different actor be that character, and I think it probably would have been okay.
See, I go a different direction. I disagree. I don't think they could have just had a different actor. I think that they could have just changed the plot, so it didn't require
That's what I
a fake
meant,
person.
right? I mean, obviously, that he was supposed to be like a facsimile of
and I think
of
that's
Flynn.
important. Now, the one thing that I'll give Tron Legacy in that regard is that since it is they're inside a computer, literally.
Right.
So I'm like, I'll give it that it's not perfectly accurate and whatever. What was a little more off-putting to me was the Jeff Bridges stuff and like the flashback scenes and all of
Yeah.
that, because then when you see what's supposed to be Jeff Bridges' character in real life,
Yeah.
and he looks exactly the same as the computer villain version, that's when it was like a little bit weird to me, and I feel like they could have cut that stuff out.
See, I just feel like, I feel like we're just in the uncanny valley, right? I feel like no matter what happens, we as human beings will never recognize that as real. It's just like not in our lifetime, at least, or not in the next 20 years.
So what do you do with the people who did think that Tarkin was real?
You line them all up outside. No, I'm just joking.
No,
It's like you can't do that on television when that guy remember the
slime?
No, the character on you can't do that on television that used to shoot everyone. He was the executioner, and then some guy would run on and say like stop the execution. You guys don't.
No, I don't remember that.
For the record, you can't do
about
that.
it? Are you talking
You
about
can't
laughing?
do that on television. No, you can't
Gotcha.
do that on television. I loved as a kid,
Oh, I
but
can tell.
all I can remember is the
can tell.
slime in the lockers because I was so young.
I could tell that you're older than me.
I know. I watched it in syndication though.
Sorry to interrupt.
With Tarkin, I can understand. I mean, a lot of people thought he was real, and that was great. It was done very, very well. I still kind of feel the same way, right? I mean, I guess that Peter Cushing's died a long time ago and hasn't been really in the public eye since. I mean, I can't remember him in other movies after A New Hope for the most part.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you're like, I guess that's sort of okay. But I mean, Carrie Fisher, everyone knows Carrie Fisher.
Right.
You just saw her in a film. The documentary just came out with her and her mother. I just don't know if people are going to be able to see that as real, and if it's not going to hinder the process or hinder the actual final.
So
outcome
have
of
they
the
said?
movie.
So to bring everybody up to speed, episode 8 is done. They said her scenes are done.
Her scenes are shot. It's
Okay,
done.
and she from what the report I heard on Colin Moriarty Live or morning show was the fact that it's her stuff's done. She's not that big of a character, but she was supposed to be a big character in episode 9.
Episode 9, yeah.
Okay.
So and you want? I mean, obviously they're talking about some of the things that people are speculating about is obviously she has to have some sort of scene with Kylo Ren, some sort of scene with Luke, some sort of scene with Rey. She's the leader of the Rebel Alliance or whatever they're calling it now, the 40-year team of people who really haven't been able to beat the fucking Empire in 30 years. So
I love you so much, Nick.
well, you know what I mean. It's
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
You know
I know
exactly what I'm
what you
talking
mean.
about. These people have been around doing the exact same thing. Maybe it's time to change your fucking tactics a little bit. Okay, they're
I
blowing
think
the
they're doing
planets out
a
of the
pretty
water.
good job considering.
They're all
How-
They let this smoke guy get in.
Cut by death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly. No, but I mean, but it's disconcerting. What do you do? Obviously, that they're up against a conundrum. This is what I lovingly refer to as the Fast and Furious 6 conundrum, right? Or 7, excuse me, conundrum. Is that you don't? What do you do? What do you do? You can't make the movie.
You do that. I think that there's
But
a
for-
tasteful way to do it.
but
You don't
they should-
agree?
No.
You thought the end of Fast and Furious 7 wasn't.
I think we're talking about apples and oranges here. I think the fact if this was episode 8 and she was a main character there, and okay, fuck, we have to fill in a few holes like they did with Fast 7, right? I know
Yeah.
we just said this, but anyways,
Yeah.
because Paul Walker stuff, a lot of it was shot, not all of it. So then these body buttles and computers and stuff.
Okay, I'm talking about the end of Furious 7
Okay.
specifically, where they did the actual.
Sure. You
CG
think you
shit.
go away without saying goodbye? Did you?
Yeah. I think it's a case by case situation where it comes down to, is it about the actor or is it about the character? And I
Yeah.
think that in the case of Fast and Furious, that was a send off of the character. But the reason they did the facial reconstruction stuff was to honor him, to honor Paul Walker and his.
So where does that leave us with Carrie though? Because this is not to honor her. This is because fuck, we have a ninth movie to make.
And I think that that's a totally different scenario. When it comes to Tarkin, we've seen him in Rebels, we've seen him in a whole bunch of other forms of media of Star
Right.
Wars, and I think Star Wars is something where these characters are the characters, and seeing him as much as we did in Rogue One, like I said in the review, thought unnecessary. They could have kept it a little bit more cutty, but they obviously doubled down on it because they knew that this type of stuff was going to happen eventually, and they need people to just get used to the fact that these characters they have storylines, and those storylines are not going to change based on reality.
But so prior to this, right, one of the more famous instances of this happening was Dumbledore dies. The actor who played Dumbledore in the first 2 Harry Potter films passes away. They don't have a choice. They can't do 5 more movies or 6 more movies with CG, so they have to recast him, right? And everyone ends up, it's divisive, but people got used to the new Dumbledore and he went on. Don't we feel like it's a little exploitative? You're exploiting the dead actor a little bit.
Right.
Don't you feel that way? You know what I mean?
I don't think it's that. The situation you're talking about with Dumbledore is similar to the moms in Fresh Prince,
Yes.
or of course the last
Except
season of Family
Viv-
Matters.
And Viv didn't die.
No, Aunt Viv didn't die.
Viv just got shit canned.
No, they had some sort of disagreement in some sort of way. I'm with Tim that I think with Tarkin specifically that I thought. Well, let me back up to what you said, because I've seen some people being like, I was with someone or I thought Tarkin was real, and I'm like, A New Hope was made in 1977. Mm-hmm. Peter Cushing looks exactly the same in this movie in 2016 that he looks like in 1977. You thought that was a real man. Okay, beyond that particular...
The point there is I'm sure those people
just
didn't
don't know who Peter
realize
Cushing
that character
is, yeah.
was in A New Hope.
But how is that possible?
I mean,
I think it's casual Star Wars fans who
Okay,
don't understand the
So
who
like my
Tarkin
wife,
is.
for instance, was like, I didn't know that guy wasn't real. But she doesn't know.
But I looked at him. I don't know anything about technology, as everyone knows, right? Don't care. Not really interested in it. Right. I looked at Tarkin immediately, and maybe it's because I know Star Wars very intimately, and maybe it's because I know Tarkin, and maybe it didn't look real at all. Like to me, like I'm like that can pass, I guess. And that's as good as it gets. It is kind of like I was going to bring up the Uncanny Valley. It isn't technically the Uncanny Valley for people out there that want to be nerdy. It's not at all. But because that's like about how robots become so realistic that they actually just don't look real anymore. But
it's a term people use for
No,
CG,
I know.
but
It's similar to like
not-
Occam's razor, how we use that term, where the simplest explanation tends to be the right one, but it's not really what it means. The thing about Leia that kind of bothered me. So with Tarkin, I agree with Tim, where they could have cast a normal person and just showed him from the back. And when they showed the reflection of Tarkin on the window, that's as far as they should have went. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought that's what we were going to get. And I was surprised immediately thereafter, not in the next scene, but immediately thereafter they show him. I'm like, that seemed to me something that George Lucas would do. Right. And I didn't expect, with his obsession with, the fucking fakeness of the episode 1 through 3, which I spoke about how I went back and looked at those. Those movies look awful now, man. They just look terrible. When I was watching episode 2 in Mexico, it looks awful, and it's even worse. That's why I tweeted. It's even worse than I remember. That was how I was like, okay, it can't possibly be any worse than I remember. And then I got to the sand scene and the Boba Fett, and I was like, no.
The Boba.
The Leia thing I thought was an unforced error because Leia looked way worse than Tarkin, first of all, and second of all, they could have just showed her putting her hood on from the back. I don't understand why they forced.
Yeah, I don't know
this
either.
particular thing made
was worth it. It
made
was
a
awesome.
but it would have been cooler. It's the same argument I made. I know it's redundant to people where they should have never showed Luke at the end of 7. You know, like they should have just had that thing whirling around the guy in the hood because you know who it is, or at least you think you know who it is. And with that iconic, those buns and that iconic white cloak on the Carillion Corvette with the codes, it would have just been awesome if she just put her hood up and interacted with R2 in some way, and that was the end. They didn't need to show her. It seemed to me to be something, particularly with Leia, where I'm like, that just caused you unnecessary problems. I think you can make plot and narrative arguments of why Tarkin needed to be in X, Y, and Z, and that's fine, and we can have those arguments. But the Leia thing, I felt like was totally unnecessary, especially because I don't think it looked good. Like that was jarring to me. Like Tarkin, I thought looked way better, but
the longer they had it, the more they gave us of Tarkin, the more you got to get hung up on the fact of, oh shit. Because I remember when it is the glass, I remember you being next to me going, what? And then it was, oh, okay. And the more we got used to it, it was like, oh, well, this is why it doesn't look real and that doesn't look real and blah, blah, blah. And Leia was great. I thought great because it was just hope, doom, boom, doom, and the place went crazy and everybody was yelling and screaming. Like, it was like that one quick moment. I didn't get a chance to linger. I haven't, gone back and looked at screenshots of it or anything.
I'm with Colin a little bit on this one and there's, it's sort of the trend in filmmaking now. Before you used to, if you wanted to hold suspense or if you wanted to, have some sort of mechanism you would see her maybe, turn a little bit, you'd see maybe a 3/4 profile, something like that, but still shrouded by the hood, right? It's something that just said, okay, that you're giving it a little bit. Right now, we're getting 110% all the time with Star Wars and with Marvel in specific. Like they figured it out. They're like, that's what the audiences want. Let's give them 110%. And so I'm with you. I don't think we should have seen her face because we knew who that was. If we see her from behind, her putting a hood on and then like turning a little bit, we would have gotten it. It would have been the exact same thing. But I think they wanted to make sure that everyone and their mother really knew who that person was, and I'm with you too. Like, it kind of took me out of it a little bit, especially coming off of that amazing scene with Vader right before that. I'm like, holy shit, they just knocked that out of the park. That's like the best thing Star Wars like I've ever seen in Star Wars. And then you get to that, I'm like, oh, you didn't. Not that I didn't mind it because I'm with Tim too. I was kind of like, all right, I'll take it, and I clapped. But I did, upon reflecting on it, like you look back, like it wasn't necessary. It didn't need to be there. It kind of felt a little fanfare-y, like. You were just kind of, I don't know.
It just seemed weird to me. Like I don't know. My big take, because I really thought Rogue One was fantastic. There's a significant plot problem that I can't get over, as we talked about in the spoiler cast, which people can go listen to, which I won't rehash here, just in case I don't want to get too deep into the spoilers. But that was the only other thing about the movie that I thought was a miss, like a complete miss, was Tarkin and Leia. Otherwise, I don't know that I don't know that it can get much better than that either. I mean, because when I was looking at it and thinking about it, I'm like, this is pretty advanced technology. I mean, right. no one's doing. They're attracting the best talent, and they have the best technology in order to do this. So I don't know how much better it can possibly be than that. I thought it was very lifelike and very real. But you see, if I went in and didn't know who Tarkin was, if it was like Grandma, or if it was like Grand Admiral Thrawn or something, and they decided they wouldn't need to do this, but if they were just, in other words, a character that we saw or we knew about from Timothy Zahn book covers or something, but we never saw outside of a video game or a book or whatever, and then they did that, and I didn't really know that character was fake to begin with, and then I looked quickly, I probably would have thought Tarkin was real, but immediately I'm like, it's not possible, and therefore it took me out, and I can't imagine that most people don't feel that way, because it just was a huge disconnect, and I feel like there's something powerful in storytelling about leaving something to the imagination, even if you know what the person is, and seeing Leia interface with her back turned with R2 or something like that, or just getting the chip after that very frenetic scene, which was fucking awesome with Vader, as they tie A New Hope to Rogue One intimately and directly, just seemed like a big miss. And I don't like it. I don't like seeing that kind of stuff. But it ties back to old Star Wars.
What do you want to do then, everybody, with Episode 9 is the question.
They got to write around 8. Like they have to write her out, and either at the end of 8 or the beginning of 9. And my thought is, can they not use, with some clever voiceover and some clever editing, scenery or shots they already have?
Well, that's what they'll do. I mean, that's what they did in Fast and Furious 7.
Yeah, that's what
with Paul Walker,
and it won't be great.
I mean, that's my problem. Is I hope they don't do what they did with Furious 7. And again, very different situations. They finished shooting 8, whereas with Furious 7, they were not even halfway done shooting it. So they had to completely rewrite the script and completely change things up. I think with Star Wars, like, they need to kind of just go forward with what the plan was. Like, whatever Leia was going to do in 9, and we don't know. All these reports and all these things coming out, they are the most rumor of rumor. Who the hell knows if she has interactions with these characters or whatever? Who knows what happens to her in 8? Like, nobody that's working on 8 is publicly putting out there, like, oh man, we need to figure out what we're doing in 9, because that implies she makes it through 8 in the original cut of it or whatever.
That was my problem with the rumors too. That's why it didn't make any sense. It seemed to belie too much.
Like, I mean, I don't trust it. And I mean, I would assume she makes it through 8, but who knows? And I also think that she's not going to be in enough scenes for it to really matter. I think that, as we saw with episode 7, they're not trying to force these things down our throats. I think that Han was the most used, most on-camera character that we're familiar with for a reason. Like, they knew they were getting rid of him, and it was totally, this is the tie back to the originals, and they needed that to do the carbon copy movie that is or whatever, and to make that happen. But going forward, I really don't think we're going to see too much of her. I think that Luke's character is going to be way more prominently featured. So
we need to protect Mark Hamill at all costs.
Well, I mean, it's kind of dark comedy, I guess, but it's like you would have expected Harrison Ford would have been one to eat shit at some point because of the
plane crash
and just the
foot
fact that
getting eaten by the
fate
Millennium
seemed to be
Falcon
against him, and you wouldn't have expected, Carrie Fisher being somewhat young by modern standards,
60,
actually
right?
quite young. I don't think she was in her 60s.
I think she was. I think she was 60 on the nose.
Oh, she was in her 50s. Oh, maybe, yeah. And then Mark Hamill, obviously. I feel like my theory was always she was gonna die in this one. And I wonder if there's any truth to that. Because I always assumed they were going to get, after Han dies in 7, which I didn't expect actually. And I was kind of sad to see that because I was kind of hoping to see, him begrudgingly play Han Solo for another film. Like maybe he wanted to be there for episode 8.
I thought, if anything, it was going to be the opposite way around. I thought they would kill Leia off.
Well, I think Luke's going to obviously die. But I think that they'll do that at the end. And so Leia's then the other one. That would, I feel like they're just they have to get rid of these characters in some way in order for everyone a new generation to move on beyond this new trilogy. But I mean, it's all conjecture, as Tim was saying. Like, we don't really know. Although a lot of the rumors, to be fair to the other side or to another side, a lot of the rumors that were coming out about Star Wars were true, and not all of them, but a lot of them were. I remember the earliest rumors about Episode 7 was that about how Luke had gone missing. And no one knew what that meant, and it was true. It's the first word and the first line in the crawl, if I remember correctly.
Well, so I mean, but this so
who knows?
So how do you react to episode 8? She lives, and then in episode 9 we have to get a CG version of her.
So that's where this gets really interesting, I think. Going back to what I was saying about there's the difference between honoring the actor and honoring the story, and I think that this is one of the most complicated of those issues because you do need to honor her death in some way. Mm-hmm. But I hope that doesn't get in the way of the story of what these movies can be, because then it's kind of like Batman with the Joker, right? Heath Ledger dying. It's like how are they going to go about that? And it's complicated because it's very similar to this, where he shot everything for Dark Knight, didn't even start Dark Knight Rises. So that completely changed what Dark Knight Rises is. And I think that because of this, it might completely change what episode 9 is, but I don't think so. I think that they will find clever ways to write her out of the story in a way that gives her a send-off, kind of like Fast and Furious, but I think it'll be better because they haven't shot half of episode 9 already. So they can reroute in a way that really makes sense instead of kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
The problem is shooting at this in the dark, not knowing what episode 8 is, right? Because if it is that she's a main character there and she hasn't had a run-in with Kylo, she hasn't had a run-in with Luke, that doesn't happen in 8, and that is something obviously that needs to happen in this series in episode 9 for the end of their part. I mean, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to recast. Yeah, I know that's fucking crazy. I know that's insane, but I mean, they can't. You can't. We all know what Carrie Fisher and Princess Leia look like, and so to have it be the CG version that just everybody's gonna walk out and be like, it was close, but it was weird, and it
also
wasn't.
You have to get someone to do her voice, right? Like you have to have an impersonator do her voice because you don't have that like synthesized. I'm with Greg. I think like. And I'm sure people are sitting in a room right now probably still discussing this, but I think you recast, and I think you even go as far as to reshoot her scenes in episode 8. Like,
wow.
Why not?
That's what I was thinking too. If you are going to recast, I think recasting.
Do it now. Like, get
that's
it done
ridiculous.
now.
See, that doesn't make any sense. Give her at least her last hurrah.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like it was jarring with Dumbledore, right? And so, especially if that character is not going to die, if you're going to use that, if you are going to continue to use that character, which if she's the leader of the Resistance, and you would imagine like she goes on to lead whatever is happening with the Empire or whatnot. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's beyond the realm of craziness to say like bring in another actor who can do that justice, who we all would love, and let's see it happen. Because I mean, look, if this has happened in the 80s, imagine if midway through Empire Strikes Back, Carrie Fisher had an accident and died. they would have had to recast, right? There's no choice.
They just
that's
would
the
have
way
wrote
it
her
used to
out.
be.
They would have just changed the plot.
That's
I mean,
possible, too.
Luke got into, or Mark Hamill got into a catastrophic accident in between The New Hope and Empire, and that's why they wrote in the scar that he has on his face from the accident with the Wampa and stuff. I think that was written specifically to make room for that. And I think that scene obviously is fucking iconic with the lightsaber and the snow stuff. But I disagree in the sense that I don't think they should be recast. I agree that if they're going to recast her, they need to do it now to make it less jarring. There is a point Tim is making, which I think is very interesting, that you have to kind of there's gonna be fan reactions either way that are gonna be positive and negative, I think, and probably mostly negative if you do something like that. I think the answer is to kill her in episode 8. Like, to go back and rewrite it so you don't have to worry about episode 9 and just put her on a fucking ship and she's on a ship and just gets blown up. That's the end. You know? Like, and you can have a callback to A New Hope when I love that scene of Tarkin when they show him for a second as the Death Star's blowing up or whatever, you know, and it's like they can do a similar thing like that and just show, you know, have a scene of her just showing her face and alter it that way. I think that they have got to have gotten rid of that character by episode 9. Like, I don't think you can, and I don't know that she's that integral to the plot anyway. They're trying to not make it about them ultimately. I think that's why the Force Awakens was such a carbon copy of A New Hope, is to get everyone comfortable with the fact that it shouldn't probably be, you know, because if episode 8 is like Empire, that's a huge problem. I mean, and I hope that that's not the case.
Shooting in the dark, doing all these different things, right? Like, I mean, as an outsider to Star Wars, but just knowing how films go and how the Star Wars stories go, like, Kylo Ren gets his fucking redemption at the end of this, right? And I think the redemption would come from Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, or, you know, General Leia, holding him as he dies. You know what I mean? And he has, it's the reverse where she's Luke and he's Vader. And it's that thing of, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I killed Dad. He won't say that, obviously, but that's what's being communicated in that moment. And so I feel like if that was where we were going to episode 9, then I think you have to drastically redo it. And I think that then means drastically redoing what the relationship with Luke is. Because now Luke has to be that parental figure to get those moments and get those scenes. And then that changes, I think, if Luke dies at the end as well. Then, or, you know, because I agree that Luke would have to die in all this and the way it originally played out.
Definitely got to
But
die.
I just don't feel like there's an anchor to this story then, or where his redemption comes from. It can't be him talking to Rey unless they are... Not even, I mean, I think they're related, right? Like, that's what we all take away from Force Awakens, but I don't think they're going to be related to the fact that that's going to matter, that, like, they're talking and hanging out.
I think there's so many options out there, and I think that there's been so much thought put into what these movies are and where they're going, and not only these movies, but Star Wars as a whole, as a franchise. And what I don't want to happen is for them to be reactionary to this type of stuff, and I want them to stay true to what the vision is, and understandably, they're going to need to make some changes, because if she was a prominent feature, she's not going to be as prominent. But I think Tarkin's an example of them being like, nah, she will be. We're going to figure that out. Tarkin being in Rebels, he's Tarkin. And the reason they did that and they went so far and they didn't just do the reflections is because they're like, this is the character and this is what we're doing. And I think that in episode 8 and 9, it'll be the same thing.
Tarkin's another one of those perfect examples. They could have literally recast that. There's all the hardcore people would have been like, okay, that guy's Tarkin now. I get it. Like, they did it with, what's her name?
The redhead.
Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, yeah.
Mon Mothma, right?
Mothman.
There's some part of me that's just irked by this, right? Where you're just suddenly allowed to recreate the exact look of a human being that you would have had to pay for this. I'm sure they had to pay his estate for it, right? But, like, he doesn't get a say as to whether or not he gets to be in this movie. Like, it's kind of the same feeling I got when I heard that George Lucas was just going to say fuck it and make everything, like, in his brain he wanted to make everything CG, right? He even has that, I think it's a famous quote that he said, could be making this up too, where he was like, if I could, I'd make everything CG, even the actors, right? Because that's what he wanted. I think it's just, where do we draw the line of saying, like, look, at a certain point, these are fucking human beings. You can't just use Carrie Fisher's likeness forever and keep putting her in movies because... Like,
yeah, but I mean,
there's just a line that has to be drawn,
I don't
right?
think even that's like what we're dealing with. I think you get away with it if that's what they wanted to do. And like episode 8, we're doing that. It wouldn't
just
be
by
seen,
contract to do episode 9.
Not
as
even
well,
that.
so
I mean, I don't even think it would be seen as like you're, you know, exploiting her or her estate or her memories. This is the end of Princess Leia's story for the most part, right? Like, this is where Leia's journey was going to end. We're what, Jesus Christ, 5/6 of the way there. You know what I mean? Like, this was what it was supposed to be in terms of what the vision of Star Wars was, and we want to honor her by doing that. And that's even with Grand Tarkin, right? In the fact that, all right, we need him for this one thing, and it's a cool throwback for the audience and for him, and he has been in Rebels, and there's this.
But again, he's been in Rebels. The character's been in Rebels, not the actor.
Right.
Peter Cushing's did
but
not.
in Rebels, he looks like that guy.
Sure,
In CG.
you could have cast an actor that looked like him, and actually didn't even need to look like him. Like, these people are actors. Like, again, I call back to Dumbledore. Like, yes, they bring a different vibe, they bring a different sense of as far as their sensibility is concerned. But that character wasn't so pivotal to the plot that it had to look like Peter Cushing's. It was just kind of. It almost feels kind of gross when you think about it, right? Like,
it's a very interesting philosophical question that I had not really considered.
Like,
that I think
why don't they put Elvis Presley in a movie? Why not, right?
I mean,
it's Elvis Presley. He's been dead for a while. No one's going to care. It's Elvis Presley. But like,
I think it's a contractual thing. I do think that like going forward in movies, this is just the reality of where we're at. These people need to, in the contracts, it needs to say it's a this many movie deal. And I mean, what about toys? What about like, it's hard. Where do you draw the line? Because if your likeness is used for every single thing, whether it's comics or toys or video games or this or that, like what's tarnishing their whatever likeness.
And that's the interesting thing. You brought up Bright Lights, the Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher documentary. I watched it on HBO, and then right afterwards it recommended Wishful Drinking, the Carrie Fisher one-woman show or whatever. And I'd never seen it, so I popped it in there. And of course she talks with broad strokes about all manner of things. But she says that George Lucas owns her likeness. And so I don't know if that was 100% correct, if that was just merchanting,
that's what I was going to say, was that some of the actors famously did fight for their likeness rights in the movie and some didn't, which is why... I don't want to say Carrie Fisher was never destitute, but like I think Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill made an extraordinary amount of money compared to her, and probably others. And it's possible Peter Cushing was actually an OG, pretty popular, famous actor. I don't know if he fought for his rights. It could be there could be some minutia, but it doesn't. But it doesn't negate what you're saying.
Because I think they have full rights to use this. By the way,
because
I'm not
I think
accusing Disney or Lucas of. Like,
I know
they're just running away. Like, what are you doing?
No, I know.
This is all on the up and up.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is I still think, regardless of the legality, I still think there is an interesting philosophical question, because you're right. It's like Elvis died, in the fucking late 70s or something?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, why not just bring Elvis back? And it's so I agree that there's something to be said about that, but they're in between a rock and a hard place, and they have to figure this out. And I'm sure that they're not. It's not going to be an easy solution. I really do think Dollars to Donuts. I think they rewrite parts of 8, and then they have to rewrite. Obviously, you're going to have to rewrite a lot of 9, but I think that they're going to have to solve this problem now, and it's a big problem. It's a sad problem. I don't think that anyone anticipated. I remember when I read about the news, and then there was all this conflicting stuff on the Hollywood Reporter and whatnot about, well, the son says she's in stable condition and all this kind of stuff. And because immediately, I remember when, it's sad, but when you only have the connection to these people as their actors and as their characters, I remember when Harrison Ford got into that fucking plane accident. I was like, well, that's great. Indy and the possibility of some sort of Indiana Jones thing happening, maybe with him, maybe with not. And then obviously Han Solo's return in episode 7. You get worried about these kinds of things, and that's immediately where my mind went to with her too, where I was like, well, it sounds like she's fine, so we don't have to worry about that. And I also watched Catastrophe, which was the last thing she filmed. So it's sad to hear, but I hope that they solve, and I think they can solve it in a very tasteful way. And I think the best way you give ode to her is to dedicate the movie to her.
That's going to happen for sure.
And I think
I
that's
guarantee at the end of it, it'll say whatever.
I think that's important. You're just for Carrie Fisher or whatever. Sure. And so, yeah, but I agree with you. And my hope is that they don't belabor this, because the technology between what we saw in Rogue One and 8 and 9 and the years passing are not going to make it any more believable. Leia didn't look right in Rogue One, and it's just not going to be right to have an animatronic fucking Leia walking around.
Yeah, the technology is obviously, it's come a long way. Like it did fool a lot of people. And in the last, I think Tron came out, 6 years ago?
2008, right?
2008, yeah. 2010. So 7 years ago almost. It's conceivable in the next 10 years they'll be able to do it. They'll be able to get it to the point where you really can't, only the trained eye can really tell. But the question still is, should they? Should they be doing this? I don't know. That's what I grapple with.